Kah halal, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash, and dumb honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace shall take to the Akam doing his work in truth and sincerity in the four corners of the earth. All right, I want to do this lesson, okay, uh, going into Donald T., all right, the president of Babylon, all right, the king of Babylon, all right, and this is a letter, all right, that he wrote to the president, I believe the president of Norway, you know, who is a NATO member, all right, okay, and he was very pompous, okay, and he was very arrogant, all right, and this all goes back to the scriptures, man, okay. Donald T came out, out the gate, talking shit about NATO and the EU. All right, since his, I believe, since his first presidency, yeah, for sure, because that's when you had the video, of him going to all the world meetings and all that. He pushing motherfuckers out the way and fixing his tie, like the pompous bald eagle he is. The nigga actually looks like a damn eagle, you know, showing you that all this stuff is happening, all right, through the spirit, all right, according to prophecy, okay? Because we never seen this before. When we first came into the truth, when I first came into the truth, I believe, Obama was president, and he ain't never spoke, ill about EU, the EU or NATO, him or Bush, or Clinton, But then you go with Donald T, all of a sudden he's kicking up dust with EU and the NATO, all right, about pretty much nothing, aside from America, being their protecting force, but he says that the EU nations or the NATO nations don't pull a weight, financially. All right. But hey, big dummy. All right. Look, Babylon, you big fucking dummy. That's why the scriptures say that you are the hammer of the earth. Okay. You are the hammer of the earth. All right. And that's why those EU nations, picked you up. All right. And y'all made that pact. All right. Because America had that military might. All right. And that is your obligation, all right, is to protect those nations, okay, from Russia. All right, from Magog, man. Okay, that's why that pact was created, And these are also all, Edomite nations, man. We have to be specific with that. These ain't Moabite nations. These ain't, especially now, no Israelite nations. These are all not mainly, but these are all Edomite nations, Now we know that Esau, when he runs his civilizations, he like it to be a big fucking wicked ass melting pot of different nations. All right. But the heads of those nations are Edomites, man. All right. And that's why it's the beast system, man. All right. Because they are to fight against the Most High power. Which all the heathen nations are even going to fight against the Most High power in the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, But primarily it's going to be Esau, all right, and his military might, all right, and his technology. But it says the White House, Washington, D.C., Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace. Look at that. Okay, but then this nigga promised peace. Okay? Didn't he come in saying he gonna be the peace president? He ain't gonna have no conflicts. He gonna end the wars. But if you didn't have your head up your ass and you wasn't trusting in politics, all right, or voting like Anton Daniels, you'll know that the prophecy says that these leaders would say that there'll be peace. Okay, that they're gonna promise peace. All right, But it ain't up to them to determine that. It's the Most High power, all right, who turns the minds of these kings, all right, however the hell he wants to. Okay, so ain't gonna be no damn peace. We ain't in a time of peace, all right? Like the book of Ecclesiastes say, man, a time for peace, a time for war, and a time for peace. Okay, right now is that time for war. Okay, you gonna get peace when we get into the kingdom of heaven, man. Okay, so ain't gonna be no damn peace. We knew when Donald T was even saying that shit, brothers knew that he was full of shit, you know? Because the shit is brewing. The keg is brewing, all right? You got Amalek all in his goddamn ear, okay? And they want war, all right? And that this destabilization of the Middle East was written in the plans of the elites a long decades ago, you know, almost a damn century ago. It says, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Okay? So now he's going into a whole different shift here. You know, he ain't talking about peace no more. He talking about what's beneficial for Babylon. All right, so that means if they got to sack a nation, if they got to kidnap his president, all right, if they got to cut you off, all right, in the ocean, all right, and steal your petroleum vessels, they'll do it. Okay, because America right now is freaking desperate. All right, the currency is being devalued every second. All right, you see silver prices up. That means the dollar is being diminished. All right, all these other nations are picking sides. Okay, and really Trump is just selected to you know, crash America out. You know, completely just go ahead and crash it the hell out. You know, because the Most High is making it to where this place is about to be crashed out, man. Okay, for his damn wickedness, man. All right, and it's had it coming for a very long time. All right. It say Denmark cannot protect their land from Russia or China, and why do they have a right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago, but we had boats landing there also. And look, this shit is just so, you know, unprofessional, undignified. You know, we just casually talking and shit. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States. The beast shall hate the whore, man. The beast shall hate the whore. It is right there in front of your face. You know? For you unbelieving Israelites that don't, I don't really hear too many Israelites put up a fight on who, you know, the beast and NATO is. You know, but that's because Jake don't even, you know, Jake ain't even into the scriptures, man. These damn keyboard warriors and fly-by-night Jakes that come out on the highways and byways that, you know, don't give double honors to the apostles and elders. You know, they not even studied enough to even go into the tin horns and the EU, man. You know, it say the world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President DJT. Okay? So he's even embracing the DT, DJT acronym, you know. Dude's a damn egomaniac, man. Okay? And the reason why they want Greenland, let's check out this silver, man, since we here, you know. Silver at $95, pretty much. You know, yeah, the reason why Esau want Greenland, you know, is because Greenland sits right on top of Russia, man. Right on top of Moscow. You know, so that's a strategic position for them. All right. It's Revelation chapter 17 and verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Okay, so scriptures say, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, okay, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked, man. And you can clearly see those lines are being not even drawn, man. They already broken. You know, the drawing started back in Trump's earlier presidency. You know, when he was doing that pompous, arrogant shit. You know, trying to make the NATO and EU pay more money. You know, chip more money in. You know. So now, I mean, the pact is pretty much broken at this point, you know, especially after the U.S. went in there and tore up that Nord Stream pipeline. You know, them European nations is over there like, God damn, you fucking our shit up. You know, we know you got a problem with Russia and China and all that shit, but God damn it, we neighboring them. We got to do some form of business together. You know, y'all all the way over there on the Western Hemisphere. You know. And so now you seeing that big isolation, you know, that's taking place right now, man. And it's all up to the Most High Power. You know, he's the one that's doing this and causing this division, you know. And it's also funny how, you know, America's over by to itself. But, you know, who else you got over here, you know, up underneath America is, you know, you Israelites, man, you know, catching hell. You know, so Babylon is over here with all its captives, you know, up under it. You know, and that's why Esau is going Hulk, you know, on you Israelite nations right now, man. All right, if you go against him, you choose China, you choose Russia, he gonna flex on you. All right, and there's pretty much nothing you can freaking do about it. You know, you could call out to China and Russia, all right, but they know that crossing them borders like that, you know, is gonna be a declaration of war, you know, to America, man. You know, but that's all I had. You know, I pray this lesson is edifying. And shalom.